Hey Kat, so nice to meet you. My name is Tori and I'm going to be reviewing this video. Thank you so much for sending it in and congratulations on having your baby. That is so exciting, but I imagine it is tricky trying to find your momentum and your groove with content creation because you are in a whole new chapter of your life. I have given the podcast a listen and I have some feedback and maybe some tweaks to help boost the performance on this video and just some things to keep in mind for future episodes. I am also available for one-on-one coaching if you'd be interested in working more closely together. I have some really great ideas on some higher level strategy that could be great for getting that traction and momentum going again. But I wanted to get started by jumping into, let me move my face out of the way here so we can see the video nav bar, is jumping into the intro, title, and thumbnail. These are the most important elements of the performance of a video. The title and thumbnail earn the click, and then the hook reinforces to the viewer why they have clicked into the video and gets them really engaged and watching through to the end. So I have a couple of thoughts and a couple of questions as well for the title of this video. I'm almost wondering if it maybe is a little bit too kind of niche with some of the word choices here. A lot of these words may be unfamiliar to an international audience or someone who is not really ingrained in the world of British politics. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we could redo this title to have a little bit more intrigue to the average person to bring them in to learn about these topics. Maybe something along the lines of like unelected power, who is really in control. That kind of creates a lot of curiosity for someone who's maybe not realizing what's going on behind the scenes, and that there is this kind of underlying power that is involved in the democracy. And this could really support the text they've chosen to put on the thumbnail, that the democracy is being hijacked, and kind of furthers that idea that who they think is in control is not actually who's actually in control. Some other ideas like hidden forces undermining British democracy, who really holds the power in the UK. These are really powerful, thought-provoking questions that may grab more people's attention and appeal to a broader audience than some of these more niche political words that not everyone might be familiar with, is my first thought on maybe some changes. But I'd be really curious to see what your impressions look like on this video compared to other videos. If the video is getting a large amount of impressions, but the click-through rate is low, you can go to your YouTube studio to see this information, by the way. You'll go to this video's analytics on your desktop, and then you'll go to reach, and you'll see a little funnel that'll say impressions, click-through rate, and watch time. So I would just compare the impressions on this particular video with some of your other recent videos, and if the impressions are lower than usual, that may be kind of, I might be onto something here with the title being just a little bit too narrowed down and it's just not appealing to a really wide range. But if the impressions are really high and the click-through rate is on the lower side, it usually just has to do with the packaging, so the thumbnail image or the title itself, and we can make some changes there. So I'd be curious to hear back from you on kind of what you're seeing as far as that goes compared to usual performance for this specific video. And then for the thumbnail, I think that it looks really clean, and I've noticed that you've kind of done this same thumbnail design for other videos that have been very successful for you. I'm just wondering if that image in the background just isn't really communicating the kind of government tension that's happening. So I'm wondering if just like a larger scale image of like a really prominent government building, or just something that is a little bit larger in scale, because thumbnails, when you're looking at them on a cell phone, can display quite small. So to just like at first glance, it kind of just looks like a apocalyptic kind of image, but it didn't jump out at me right away as being like a government-centered image. So maybe we could play around with some imagery that's a little bit larger in scale to pass glance test. When I'm working on thumbnail designs, I will step far away from my computer and just kind of squint my eyes and make sure that the elements that need to be seen and clear are still coming across really well, because people are looking at these images very small on the phone, and we want to make sure we're really grabbing their attention and communicating the underlying story of the podcast really well with this image selection. So I'm thinking a larger scale, more government heavy image could be a good pivot here as well. And then the next thing that I wanted to touch on was the intro. So a really effective intro, we call this the hook, is going to really support the curiosity that you have kind of created in me with your title and thumbnail. So if I have clicked on this video, I'm already curious about kind of what's going on with the government, and maybe it's not what I think that it is. So within that very first 10 to 15 seconds, you want to kind of reaffirm that curiosity that I have so that I am hooked in and watching and listening to the rest of the conversation. So with this particular intro, I noticed it was about a minute and a half long, and I'd say 45 seconds is probably closer to the ideal length of an intro. People's attention spans have just gotten quite short, especially with an hour-long podcast. You want to really, really hook me in and get me sat to listen for the full hour. So I was thinking with this particular intro that jumping in at we seem to have this trans democracy, which was about the minute mark, felt like it really supported the title and the thumbnail that you have chosen for this video, that democracy isn't really it's not really functioning how we think it is. And starting out with the statement that we have a democracy or a trans democracy that's not really functioning like a democracy really kind of furthers that curiosity, hooks me into the conversation. And I think that you're going to lose a lot less people in those first few seconds by just keeping those intros really short and concise and making sure that with whatever curiosity loop you have opened with your title and thumbnail, the first thing that you say in that opening 15 seconds really supports and furthers that curiosity to hook me the rest of the way into the video. So I think those three things are really going to make a huge difference implementing those packaging tweaks, and should really increase your click-through rate, and just kind of keeping these things in mind as you are creating future podcasts. And then I also wanted to talk about the end of the video, because as far as discoverability strategy goes, I know you said you were seeing some subscriber growth, around 200 subscribers for July and August of last year, and are just kind of struggling to get that momentum again. One really, really great strategy for building an audience is you want to get people watching not just one of your videos, but 2 or 3 in a row. This is a really, really positive viewer signal to YouTube and tells YouTube that your content needs to be in front of this viewer more often. So if you can get someone to watch 2 or 3 episodes or videos off of your channel, the next time they come onto the platform, you're going to be on their homepage and in their recommended video feed, and they are much more likely to watch more of your content and then eventually subscribe, because they have come to really enjoy engaging and listening to your content. So one really good strategy to do this is at the end of the video. We call this the call to action. I'm just going to skip to the end here.
We'll go looking for Rokary review.
Okay, wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Jake Scott.
Thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you for tuning in to Wisdom Rebellion. Before you go, if you enjoyed the conversation,
so right around this spot, we call this ending language. So when you kind of have signaled to me subconsciously that the episode is over by saying goodbye to your guest, if you enjoyed this episode, me as a viewer, that signals to me this video is over and I need to find something else to watch. So most people are just going to go over to the sidebar, find another piece of content, and move on. The idea here is to, instead of using ending language, you want to really start to pitch the next video that you want me to watch before I understand that the video is over. So I would, instead of asking for a subscribe here, I would say, if you want to continue the conversation or like bring up another point, this kind of goes in line with another one of your videos. And instead of asking for the subscribe, ask them to watch the next video on the screen, the one that you have displayed here, and do a really nice verbal pitch. And this is going to be huge for getting people to, instead of watching another random video from their sidebar, watching another video from you, and ensuring that you're on their homepage the next time they sign on to the platform. And then my last bit of feedback is right around the 1:30 mark.
Before we start the conversation, may I ask, if you want to support the show, all you have to do is press subscribe.
So I know that it is a really great push to earn subscribers and, of course, ask your audience to subscribe. But I would highly recommend not doing this so early in the episode because you haven't really provided a ton of value to the viewer yet that would convince them to subscribe. So from a viewer perspective, you really do have to convince someone to subscribe and really provide them value so that they know when they do subscribe, they're going to continue getting that value from you. So I would recommend, if you do want to do a call to subscribe, move this to a little bit later in the video so that me as a viewer has already gotten a ton of information and insight from the conversation. And then it's going to be much easier for you to convince me to subscribe because I've already learned so much more for you and I'm starting to see the opportunity to learn even more by being a part of your audience. So let me know if you have any follow-up questions about anything that I've said here. And I think that these are going to be some really good tweaks that set you up to get back on track with the momentum you were seeing before. And like I said earlier, I would really love to continue to work with you on some higher level strategy and some discoverability tactics. So if you'd be interested in that, you can upgrade to one-on-one coaching with me and we can keep the momentum going.